paying everyone around on these cases, right? They're having drastic effects on lives and cases and neighborhoods and entire communities, entire fucking communities. And even to the point of raising, I mean, the costs, law enforcement, overtime, all these other things. I mean, those have to be made up in these, with tax hikes and such on communities and citizens, right? Right? So every time you see these dumb sons of bitches calling services and overwhelming this and doing that, and oh look, here's a bag of adult toys they've planted near Candace's, and they're going to call them into the feds as dangerous, and they do all these games and they play all this bullshit around each of these cases. Every time law enforcement has to respond to the bullhorns and the MGLs and all the bullshit and the swatting and the targeting of everyone around cases and all of the bullshit, right? All of the parades and all the goofball shit, it costs money. In small places, especially like Hawkins, they're already in the negative, and they've already raised up taxes on locals who can barely afford it and aren't even scraping by, and they'll have to do so again and again in places. And you're literally looking at places like Hawkins where citizens will have to start selling off land or their belongings or homes and moving out of communities and things that have been in their families for hundreds of years because of fucking tragedy pimps and their playtime with services and law enforcement and all this, because when taxes get raised up even further, those families can't afford it. All right. That's how widespread the damage is that they do. Entire towns of people who don't even have anything to do with anything are punished in a way and have to pay and may lose everything they own and their families have owned for eons because of tragedy pimps playing fucking games with services. So that's how much of an effect they can have on places, right? And entire fucking communities, and honestly, the livelihoods of people and homes and land and the way in which people. Mike, that's unnecessary. So they can affect generations, right? Because around here, the way it works is like, okay, well, that property is or a piece of it's being left to this family member, that family member, whatever, right? They put a house on it, they put something on it, and in that way, they don't have to rent, they don't have to do all these things, right? And all they really have to worry about are basic utilities and then, food costs, etc. But once that and there's not many jobs around here to get the pay good, right? You only have fast food, chemical company that isn't really worth a dime to work for anymore, and a monopolized healthcare system. And the education levels aren't here necessarily to do other things. So these people are bringing in $180, $200 a week, and that can pay basics and this and the other. But then what you have are them then faced with higher tax rates and shit. These families can't afford land taxes, and they have to sell off land, and they could survive if they had that land and were able to place a house, but then that land's no longer there because it's having to be sold off because of motherfuckers like these tragedy pimps coming into communities and tax rate hikes, etc. And then what you have are families out on the streets because there's not enough housing, they can't afford rent and utilities and food. So how these things can snowball to a point to where it can have generational changes. But nobody thinks about shit like that, right? It's just all funsies for YouTube. It's all just fucking entertainment. It's all just, oh, it's okay. It's just a call. Oh, it's just this, right? And then you have people over here who overwhelm the shit out of services of all varieties, right? They're already understaffed, underpaid, overworked, and they're in a community where they proclaim they care about children. They do this, they do that, the other, but then they use these services as weapons